Parshas Bechukatai, preparing for receiving the Torah. We are just a couple, let's see, today's the 28th of the Omer, so we're a little bit more than halfway there. We just have a few more weeks before Kabbalas HaTorah. One of the dilemmas that people have is that if on Pesach, our efforts to receive the Torah, our efforts to make Yontiv were perhaps very difficult and very demanding and taxing on our time, at least they helped put us, hopefully, in the framework of really trying to experience a Yontiv and prepare for Yontiv so that by the time that Yontiv arrives, we feel a sense of, I feel I've gotten ready for this holiday, right? But Shavuos has a certain, the benefit of Shavuos is that it doesn't take a lot of work. I mean, it's not like you got to clean the entire house for Shavuos. It's not like you have to do a whole huge amount of cooking for 8 days. But at the same time, the deficiency or the downside is that there's not a lot of preparation, physical preparation at least, that we can make for getting us into the feel, into the spiritual immersion of that holiday. So the question is, how is one supposed to prepare for the holiday of Shavuot to make it meaningful by the time that it arrives? The truth of the matter is that our sages tell us that the preparation stage of Shavuos is during this very period of time, during Sfiras HaOmer. And that every day that goes by is supposed to be another day when we have the opportunity to prepare to receive the Torah at Har Sinai, because this is exactly what our ancestors were doing in the Midbar. Every day they went one level of ascent higher in their efforts to try and connect with this divine source and to pull themselves out of the morass of a centuries-old slavery and become liberated people. So, one way, perhaps, and this is perhaps one of the reasons why we read Parshas Bechukatai, is if we take a look at the first pasuk of the parsha. The Torah tells us, "Im bechukatai telechu, ve'es mitzvosai tishmeru va'asisem osam." If you walk along the way of my statutes, and you observe my commandments, and you perform them, this is all if, then what? God says, "V'nosati gishmechem bi'itam." I will give you rain, and I will give you blessing. I will give you agricultural blessings. I will give you peace and prosperity in your land, and everything will be great. But the very prefatory sentence is, if you do this. And I just want to focus on the first three words of our parsha. Im bechukatai telechu, if you walk according to my statutes. Rashi tells us, very famous Rashi, Yochel zeh kiyum hamitzvot. You might think that the words, if you walk along my statutes, refers to the fulfillment of the commandments. That can't be, because keshehu omer ve'et mitzvotai tishmeru, harei kiyum hamitzvot amur. He says, well then what does the second phrase mean? If the first phrase means if you fulfill my commandments, then what does the second phrase mean, Aves mitzvotai tishmeru, that you shall fulfill my commandments? So the first statement must be referring to something totally different. Hama ani mekayem bechukatai telechu, shetihiyu amelim batorah. It means that you have to toil in Torah study. That's what in Bechukatai telechu means. Now there's a mountain of commentary that is built upon this Rashi. And I just want us to touch very briefly upon some of the ideas that I think that would be helpful for us to extract from this. The first question that we have to ask ourselves is, if indeed Hashem is telling us that one of the prerequisites for living a blessed life of prosperity and wealth and safety is to be immersed in Torah study, then why didn't God just say so outright? Im te'amalu b'Torah. If you toil in Torah study, ve'et mitzvotai tishmeru, and you observe the commandments. Why does he have to write it in this very cryptic fashion of im bechukatai telechu? And normally, what is a chok? What is a chok? Im bechukatai telechu. What is a chok?
Law.
A law,
Commandment.
a commandment, something that defies explanation sometimes. Has no reason. Well, not that it has no reason, but it has a reason that is beyond our understanding. But that's what you meant to say, right? Why does the Torah use this language to describe Torah study? And why does it talk about walking in the path? So we have a number of different commentaries, the Medrash on this pasuk. We'll just look at a few lines from the Kliyakar who brings this idea. He says, "B'parsha Rishona Amar im Bechukatai telechu al ha'amal b'Torah v'kovea itim laTorah chok v'lo ya'avor." So first of all, he says that the idea of a chok is something that you do habitually and something that you do as a part of a daily or regular routine. For example, how many of you go to the gym? You don't have to raise your hand. Actually, I'm not interested. But if you go to the gym, you know that if you miss one day, you feel lousy. You feel lousy for two reasons. Number one, you don't have the same endorphins running through your system. You don't have the same oxygenation of your blood. And number two, you feel bad about yourself. I let a day go by when I took in the same amount of calories, but I didn't have the opportunity to exercise it off, and it's going to go right to my, at least that's what my wife tells me. Right? I think with guys it's different. It doesn't go straight to the hips, it goes somewhere else. It probably goes to my gut. But that's generally what happens, right? In other words, if exercise is your thing, then it has to be done as a davar chuki, as something that is fixed and part of your daily routine, if it's going to make a difference, if it's going to be relevant and important to your life. So that's why the Torah uses the word Bechukatai, chuki, to describe Torah study, that it's got to become something regular, routine, and habitual. Ki ein kavanato al mitzvot hachukiyot, ki lo matzinu behem b'chol haTorah lashon halicha. He says it can't be referring to the chukim, the cryptic commandments, whose reasons defy understanding, because the verb to modify the word bechukosai is halicha, to walk in that path. Shma mina shahalicha zu medaberet b'davar she'en HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitzaveh alav zulat shahadam me'atzmo oseh kein. What it means is that God says, I want you to make it something that you walk to, something that you volunteer to make habitual. That's why the verb of to walk, because God says you've got to take that human initiative to walk in that direction. That it's therefore something that a person does by rote, by nature, habitually. By doing it constantly, with constant regularity, it becomes second nature. And this can only be accomplished if you set aside set fixed times for Torah study. And therefore you set aside a time to come to the study hall at an established time every day, so that it becomes nature, it becomes something that is so much a part of your daily routine that it is inconceivable that I begin my day, just like I can't begin my day without that cup of coffee or without that 45 minutes in the gym. It is inconceivable that I would begin my day without those few minutes in prayer and Torah study. Torah study is here what he says is the thing that has to become hergel, it has to become habitual. And therefore he says, and then he quotes this beautiful medrash, V'zeh kedat hamidrash, ha'omer im bechukotai telechu, on this very verse, Hadahu dichtiv, this is what the pasuk means when it says, Chishafti dirachai ve'ashiva raglai el edevotecha. That King David says, I calculated my pathways, but I always turn my feet towards your statutes. What does this verse refer to? So the Medrash tells us, Amar David lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. David says before God, Ribono shel olam, Master of the universe, B'chol yom vayom hayiti mechashev l'makom ploni ani holech. God, I'm a king, and I have a lot of affairs of state to take care of. And every day in my day planner, in my iPhone, I scheduled in my calendar exactly where I was supposed to go, all of the appointments that I had to schedule my affairs of state, and meeting with all of the dignitaries, etc. V'hayu raglai meviot oti lebatei midrashot. But instead, my legs, as I walked out the door and was planning to go to the capital, my legs transported me to the Beis Medrash. Because it became so much second nature within me to be a Torah scholar and to immerse myself in that milieu, that it became impossible for me. It became so natural for me to walk in that direction. It was hard for me to pull myself away from that which became so second nature. ואין זה כי אם מצד שהיה קובע עתים לתורה חוק ולא יעבור עד שרגלו העינון ערבין להליכו לבית מדרשות בלא כוונה כי כבר הורגלו בכך. And it's because it became so second nature for him. That's the Kli Yakar, and he continues along those lines. And I think that that's what part of the objective has to be in being able to properly receive the Torah, is that in order for the Torah to become an intrinsic part of our lives, it has to be treated with the same seriousness and same commitment, at least with the same level of commitment that we treat all of the other rituals that we do in our lives on a daily basis. I can't conceive of starting my day off without a cup of coffee. And if that's the case, are you the same one?
Yeah.
I can't conceive. You can't. A person should not be able to conceive of starting off his day or her day without Torah study, without being able to immerse oneself at least for a fixed amount of time. And it should be habitual and fixed, so that it's not when I have time. Because it's not when I have time I'll drink a cup of coffee. No, I'm going to make time to have that coffee. I'm going to make time to go to the gym. I'm going to make time to be able to immerse myself in Judaism and study Torah. And that's, I believe, what the Gemara is telling us over here. The Gemara in Masechet Shabbat, also another very famous quote from the Gemara, says, "B'shah shemachnisin adam ladin." When a person is brought to judgment after 120 years, a very scary thought. Person is brought for judgment before the heavenly court. Omrim lo. So they say to him, Nasata v'natata be'emunah. First question, did you deal faithfully in business? Question number 2, Kavati itim la Torah. Did you study Torah at fixed times in your life? Did you set up times? Not only did you study Torah, but did you establish fixed times to study Torah? To go to a shir, to go and participate in this intellectual and spiritual endeavor of Torah study. The Bnei Yissaschar has a beautiful commentary to that idea. He explains that there's a sequence to those first 2 questions. He says that, if a person says, yes, God, I engaged in business faithfully, I always had trust in you. So that leads to the next question. It leads necessarily to the next question, because what is the biggest detractor for a person to not set aside time for his spiritual nourishment? The answer is, I got too busy. I got too busy with work. I got too busy taking care of the parnasa, of the family needs, and so forth. I had to do carpool. I had to go to work. I had to go to the office. I had to speak to people on the phone. And all of these things that we get involved with in life, if a person engages in his regular daily affairs with faith, then you know that you can only invest a certain amount of time in your business dealings. And business dealings is not just the work that you do to make money. It's, I think, in a more general idea, it's all of the things that you need in order to sustain yourself and your family. You have to be able to invest that time which is available to you for you to invest, and have faith that whatever else needs to be done, Hashem will help get done. And therefore, if your answer is in the affirmative, that I always trusted in you, God, that you would provide for me and my family, I took what would be considered to be normative human initiative, and I did what I felt that I was supposed to do, and said, the rest is up to you, you're my partner, the rest is up to you, Hashem. So then you can answer the next question in the affirmative. Oh, so then kavati itim la Torah. So then obviously you were able to find time in the day to study Torah. Because if you had that kind of attitude in the way that you took care of your worldly affairs, then you obviously didn't get overwhelmed by all of the responsibilities of life, because you had faith in God that you'll do what you have time that you are able to do reasonably, and the rest you'll leave up to your shutaf, leave up to your partner. And so therefore the next question becomes, kavata itim la Torah. So if you can't answer the second question in the affirmative, then you have no business answering the first question in the affirmative. That's the way Bnei Yisachar learns the Gemara. And that leads us to the final text that we'll take a look at today, just because of time constraints. The Gemara in Brachos says, Amar Rabba bar Chana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan mishum Rabbi Yehuda bar Rabbi Eloi, Bo ur'eh, come and see Shalo kedorot harishonim dorot ha'acharonim. Come and see how the later generations are nothing like the earlier generations. Dorot harishonim asu toratan keva u'malachtan arai. The earlier generations made their Torah study and their spiritual endeavors as the mainstay of their day, the main project of their day. And when they had time to work, they went to work. Zu v'zu nitkaima biyadan, and that's why they were able to succeed in both. You know, there's no such thing as a rabbi in Talmudic literature. I mean, when I say there's no such thing as a rabbi, there's no such thing as a professional rabbi. No one has the job. No one's job is to be a rabbi. No one gets paid to be a rabbi. The Rambam felt that it's an embarrassment that anyone should be paid to be a rabbi. A rabbi is not an occupation, it's a vocation. It's not something that you get paid to do, it's something that you do after you've made a parnasa. Then you can attend to rabbinic and Torah affairs. And if that's the attitude, that my whole objective in life is Torah, so then I'm able to succeed in both my Torah affairs and my worldly affairs. Dorot ha'achronim sha'asu malachtan keva v'toratan arai. The later generations, whose main objective in life was to be able to succeed financially and in the world, and they made their Torah pursuits more arbitrary or happenstance, zu v'zu lo nitkaima biyadan, then they were not able to succeed in either. Because this is even before the age of cell phones. Imagine what Chazal would say if they knew about cell phones. Every time it goes off, I gotta pull myself away from the Blatt Gemara and don't have time to concentrate. So this is it. This is what Sfiras HaOmer is all about. Just like Sfirat HaOmer is a daily progression that is fixed and that we count every single day, that's our cue. That's what a life of commitment to Torah is all about. It's about making the Torah not just a part of your day, but an inviolate part of your day. A part of your day which is so necessary and crucial that you couldn't even imagine going a day without Torah study and without taking care of this very necessary, nourishing component of your life. If we can accomplish that, then we'll be able to receive the Torah on Shavuot in the most excellent of ways. Have a great day. Please.
How does Rashi guess that you should be Amen the Torah from this? Like, what's his pay?
That's what the Kliyakar was answering. Kliyakar says, Davar chuki, chukotai, means something habitual, and telechu means that it's something that you voluntarily go to do and make a part of your daily routine. Just like when you walk, you go to where you need to go. So walking to Torah study. That's if you take a look, that's the Kliyakar, that's exactly what he's trying to address.